Would you like to have a career in racing, and if so, what would you like to do, Dale?
Well, I want to be a race car driver someday. It's all I've ever known, racing.
What did you want to be when you grew up? So many people live a life of what if. Go to school, go to college, get a 9-to-5. This is how we support our dreams, with a safety net. Because we're unsure about taking a leap of faith. Because we're afraid. As we grow, we cross things off our list of dreams. We cut them down, make them realistic. Having control of things is reassuring. But for some, the rush of being out of control is what gives them life. Some say racing cars is reckless. Maybe they're right. Out of bounds isn't just cheating, it's cheating death. Football fields made up in seconds. Decisions made in instants. For the people that climb behind the wheel of these cars, they're not driving it. They become part of it. It's an extension of the body. As a child, I looked up to these people, faces hidden by helmets. The less you saw of the driver, the more believable it became that they were, in fact, just part of the machine. It's easy to forget that inside the cockpit is someone just like us, but with the mindset that fear is a motivation, not a barrier. But the reality is, race car drivers are not like us. They never cross anything off their list of dreams. They just keep writing more. Daytona.
This is the finish of the Daytona 500. Side by side.
Le Mans. Indianapolis. Monaco. Places that used to be just places, now international symbols of victory. To those that enjoy the spectacle of racing, the 2 feet of concrete and steel cables are a wall between us and them, between sitting in the grandstands and standing in victory lane. These same walls are a stark, immovable reminder that racing drivers put their lives on the line for the sake of the thrill and entertainment. Despite the risk, despite the heartbreak, despite the cost. There are some on the sidelines who are fascinated by the danger. They are fascinated by speed, fascinated by the undying desire to be just a little bit better. Their dreams erased by geography, finances, or the lack of a famous last name. There are some who once wished to be a race car driver, but aren't, because they didn't get the chance. And they thought they'd spend the rest of their lives watching their heroes on television, or from the other side of the fence. They thought it was impossible to climb into a race car, so they crossed it off their list. But it's not impossible. There is a ticket to the other side of the fence. For those who want it bad enough, this is your chance. Last year, Winding Road Racing hosted the first season of SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge, a year-long esports racing event utilizing the iRacing Motorsport Simulator to give a driver a kickstart to their real-world racing career. The winner at the end of it all was a driver named DJ Alessandrini. And when some resemblance to normal returns, he'll get his chance to drive a SPEC MX-5 Challenge race car at an invitational event sometime in the future. For 2020, the racing season has come to an unfortunate and abrupt halt, and esports racing has exploded in popularity over the past few weeks. So it's time to start it all over again with an adjusted schedule, a new format, and exciting new prospects. This is the 2020 SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge, brought to you by Ricmotech Sim Racing Equipment and Level Up Racing School. Welcome to Winding Road Magazine and Sim TV. My name is Kyle Heyer. I'm joined by Finian Dcunha and DJ Alessandrini for tonight's first round of many in this year-long sim racing event. A little bit shorter schedule. This one will go all the way through August and about 8 events. We're going to start it off all tonight at Summit Point Motorsports Park. Have a look-see here at the racetrack we're going to be racing at tonight here. Finian, welcome back for season number 2. Time to do it all over again with a full grid of brand new painted race cars. It's going to be a fun year.
Yeah, and it's really nice to see, bringing back quite a few drivers back from last season. Also some new faces on the grid as well. So a fairly new group of drivers that are going to take the track here. It'll be interesting to see at the end of the few weeks that we're going to be having this season who is going to be our next champion.
And we're joined by last year's champion, DJ Alessandrini. He's our guest analyst tonight. DJ, welcome to the Sim TV booth. This is going to be a fun one. This car just got iRacing's new tire model V7, and in your own words, it drives a lot more like a car this season. So how is that going to change things for these drivers as they get out on the racetrack for the first time?
Well, I think you're going to see the drivers who have real-world experience, they're going to become more accustomed to the intricacies of driving this car faster than the drivers who might just be purely sim-based only. And I know we have a lot of drivers in here who actually do drive, whether it's autocross or SPEC Miata or something along those lines, tonight, and it's going to be excited to see how those drivers adjust. I know they've all been putting in a lot of practice time, so I'm sure they've got their head wrapped around this car. But it's going to be fun to see how the real world drivers and the purely sim drivers clash tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So coming up tonight, Finian, we have 2 races, both 20 minutes long with a very short break in between. Race 2 is set by the finishing order of race number 1. So unlike last year where you qualified for both events, this time you qualify for race 1. That's what we're doing right now. You race the first race. Wherever you finish is where you start for the second race a little bit later tonight.
Yeah, that will put a lot more importance on race 1 because, effectively last season we treated both races in the night as 2 completely separate events, because the guys, once you finish race 1, you can qualify again. So no matter what happened to you in race 1, you completely get a reset for the second race because you're able to qualify now. With the field being dependent on the finishing order for race 1, you need to finish well in race 1 to even have a good shot at getting a good finish in race 2, so it's going to be important to do well in both events.
Well, I think it's also important to take a look at where we are tonight. And DJ, Summit Point Motorsports Park is a spectacular facility, 2 miles long. Take me through a lap here at Summit Point Motorsports Park, and how do you go fast here in one of these NC MX-5 Cup cars?
Well, you start on the front straight. It's the longest straight on the racetrack, and you head into turn 1, which has an interesting late apex. You let the car travel all the way to the edge of the track, where there's even there's like a runoff, like service road there. You even let the car hang out into that a little bit. Then you're coming up to the most fun corner on the track, turn 3. You're going to see a lot of drivers run wide there tonight, but the race steward has already said that he'll be dishing out penalties if it gains them an advantage. So I'm curious how the drivers are going to balance that penalty, but also being a race car driver at the same time. You kind of flirt with those limits. And then you're heading down into turn 4, which is called the chute. You're going to fly through that corner. It feels a lot narrower than it is. You will see somebody crash their car there tonight. Hopefully it's not going to be season implicating. Turn 5, tight left. You're heading into the tightest section. Turn 6, it's a tight right. Now you're in the carousel. 7, 8, 9, all of those corners flow together. And then you're going to head to turn 10, which is deceptively fast back onto the front straight.
That's a lap here at Summit Point. This is the run of the full course here tonight, 2 miles long, Finian. So we talked a little bit about the importance of qualifying, but the races here a little bit shorter than they were last year. We did a 20-minute race and then a 30-minute race. How is shortening that second race going to turn the intensity level up?
Oh, well, these guys are going to have a lot less time to get back to the front if they have some kind of problem in race number 1. Obviously, we're not really doing it. We're not doing it in. We're going to straight up start where you finish in race 1. But I definitely think with a shorter time limit, it's less chance for these guys to move about. So guys going to be a little bit more aggressive early on, especially when the field's closer together. So we do have a higher chance of seeing wrecks in the second race. So with the skill level of these guys tonight, I think the racing should be pretty clean for the most part. I do think one corner we need to look out for is turn 5. I think this is going to be calamity corner coming down here because as you were saying, these guys come flying out of turn 4, then they have to get right on the brakes. We've seen a lot of guys try to make passes down into turn 5. Not all those attempts successful, and could see a few guys getting involved, especially in the early laps.
You know, the way the cars race on this track, you'll be side by side heading into 1, but then the side by side will stay all the way through turn 3 through turn 4, and it's normally resolved by the time you get to turn 5. And turn 4 is the fastest corner on the track. And I was thinking Kurt Crum was going through it, but yeah, you're going to be side by side going through that corner, and it's barely flat when you're by yourself. So you can do it flat side by side, but it's going to be very sketchy. I can't wait to see who pulls it off.
So qualifying is underway, and the times are at the top of your screen. The gap to the leader here, Finney. We've got 40 cars here tonight. Actually, a little bit more than that. A couple of the drivers, at least one of them, Scott McIntyre, has not gone on the racetrack yet. One of the drivers in this field we're quite familiar with, John D. Allen in the 02 car. He's run this series in the real world as well as the Global MX-5 series. Also, there's a man named Rob in here this evening, and we're expecting to see him climb way up the order. I'm looking down to try to find him. Rob Level in the number 14. He was actually slated to run this series in the real world this year, Finian, but obviously that has not happened because of everything that's going on. So he's here tonight racing. He is not points eligible in this number 14 car. So he's just out here for fun, and I bet you he's going to have a lot of it.
Yeah, well, currently he's slated to qualify in 38th. He's still good on this lap as long as he didn't make an off track. At some point, the lap will still count. So if he can make it back to the line, we'll see where he ends up, because I doubt he wants to start all the way back there.
So DJ, turn 1 here, we talked about how tight this is, how late of an apex it is. This is a long straightaway and a little bit downhill as well. So you get on here, the first lap, everyone's going to be charging down here at 110, 115, 120 miles an hour. How aggressive are you going to get on these opening laps here, and how much are you going to wait and lay back and let everyone take themselves out?
So you can go about it 2 ways. You can either set the precedent right off the bat, because a lot of these guys have not raced with each other. So you could set yourself off as, I'm the crazy guy, watch out for me, which could work in your favor. Or you might... the line you want to ride is you don't want to be too passive where people think they can take advantage of you, but you don't want to be so aggressive where people aren't willing to work with you. So if I were one of the drivers, that's kind of the line that I would be trying to ride, where you basically you're communicating to other drivers, hey, you can work with me. I'm not going to do anything reckless that's going to end your race.
So about 1 minute and 36 seconds left in qualifying, and everyone that started a lap is allowed to complete it, but those that have not started one are going to have to pull off and call it a day here. We're just about to get ready for 2 20-minute races. Let's go over the season prizes here, because they're big ones here, Finian. So at the end of the season champion will get one of 3 choices. They can run at an HPDE, a high-performance driving event at Circuit of the Americas in a race-prepped SPEC MX-5 race car. Number 2, you can have a 2-day competition licensing school provided by Level Up Racing School in a race prep SPEC MX-5 race car. Or 3, an invitational entry to a 2021 SPEC MX-5 challenge event in a race prep SPEC MX-5 challenge race car. DJ, last year you had the same choices. You actually elected to go with the invitational event. Obviously, you have not been able to have a chance to drive that yet, but there was discussion of that happening at this particular racetrack. I'm looking forward to seeing you get in one of these race cars, because they're a lot of fun, and everyone knows Miata is always the answer.
Yeah, I've driven an NC on a racetrack before at COTA with Grid Life Touring Cup. So if the SPEC MX-5 is anything like that, it's going to be a blast to race in identically prepped race cars against a bunch of other super talented drivers. And I mean, mostly that's what I can't wait for, is just to be able to drive the exact same cars as everyone else, and just against super talented drivers. That's going to be an awesome learning experience, and I'm so grateful for Winding Road for putting all that together and it actually happening. I was a little skeptical at the end of the season, and I was like, yeah, and then it just all started happening, and I saw how serious they were, and it was a little it was like too good to be true, and then it turned out to be true. So that normally doesn't happen when it's too good to be true.
So it's time to grid up and get ready to go racing. This race will be approximately 15 laps from start to finish. Again, this race is based on, actually, that's not quite right. That'll be a little bit, is that right? 20 minutes? Yeah, that sounds right. 15 laps, 20-minute race is what we're lined up to do here tonight. So waiting for the field to grid up here, guys, and we're going to run through the starting lineup here in just a moment, Finian. But let's go over the colors of the cars, because this is something we have not touched on yet. The drivers that are wearing the primarily black liveries, those are drivers that ran this series last year and are returning for a second go at this championship. The drivers in the white cars are new to the series and have not raced in the SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge events before. So let's just make sure we got a pace car out front. Looks like we do, just making sure that everything's configured nicely and getting ready to go racing. I got a couple Twitch streamers in the field. One of them, Josh Cadenau, in the number 97. So if you want to watch his onboard, you can head to twitch.tv/Josh Cadenau. There's the link right there for you. So you can check out his perspective. And he's starting really deep in the field. So it's going to be a fun perspective to watch here in just a moment. Let's also go over our weather conditions for this afternoon because we know it's going to be a little bit toasty out there. 103 degrees fitting on the track surface. That's going to be a little bit hot, but DJ, how do you think the tires are going to hold up for 20 minutes?
The car is going to be really neutral when you first start with the cold tires, and the car is really playful on the cold tires. But you'll see that the drivers that are bombing braking zones, their fronts are going to fall off, and it's going to affect them later in the race.
So about high noon here in Summit Point, and taking a look at the ambient temperature, 77 degrees. Mostly cloudy skies out there, so we could see some fluctuations in track temperature throughout the day. We'd already touched on turn number 3, and DJ sat in on the drivers' meeting and said that Ryan Cobbers, our race control director today, will be penalizing drivers if he sees them gaining an advantage out here. This is a gravel trap right at the exit of turn number 3, Finian, and it's relatively smooth. You can actually gain some time if you drop your wheels off there. And Ryan Cobb is going to be looking very closely to make sure that no one's cheating running out wide at this corner.
Yeah, and it's, again, it's one of those corners, because you can't carry the speed through there, so it's nice to have an admin, keeping an eye on that, although I feel bad for him because he's got to keep track of 40 guys going through there. I imagine not everyone's going to take advantage, but I think definitely some guys are going to try to take as much of an advantage as they can get.
Yeah, there's 40 cars in this field. That's a whole lot. And of course, calamity is going to happen. That's just the nature of these races, especially with a new group of drivers just getting used to each other. So the first couple laps, there's going to be a lot of chaos. We're going to try to bring you the action the best we can. We're going to focus on the battles at the front. Let's roll through the starting grid here on the front row, Finian. It's going to be Jonathan White in the 22 and Paul Darling in the 55 out of Michigan in his yellow and black MX-5.
Yeah, but moving on back to row number 2, we find Jesse Stevens in the 13, in third place. Next to him in 4th, Ken O'Seal in the 94.
In row number 3, Chris Hend, the postman, gonna send it today. 33 rolls off 5th from New York, and Tom Abramatis in the 6th place car will roll off the outside of row number 3.
Michael Garamone in the 20 car in 7th, and he's gonna be lining up next to Michael Borden in 8th.
Sam Scott rolls off in 9th. He'll go at this again for the second time. So will Thomas Pressey, the 24 car out of Pennsylvania, rolls off 10th.
Moving on back, we find Robert Hartley in 11th in the 03 next to him. Drew Reinhardt in the 69 in 12th.
In 13th place this evening, Gustavo Purgato in the number 11 car rolls off 13th out of Florida, and Steve Ficacci returning in his number 51 in 14th.
Back in 15th, Kirk Crom's going to be lining up in the 07, and next to him in 16th is going to be Mitchell Peak in the 21.
In 17th place tonight, Ismael Basso in the number 40 out of California rolls off 17th, and Kevin Zhu, another Grid Life iRacer driver, rolls off at 18th in the 43.
Back in 19th, Alexander Lunkowski in the 16. Next to him, Nick Del Campo in the 15 in 20th.
Lekowitz is the name there.
Lekowitz, sorry.
Get that right. Max Bowman in the number 89 rolls off 21st. Gil Winningham in 22nd in the 81.
Back in 23rd in the 23 car is going to be Jack Sanchez, and next to him, Evan Schickel in the 77, going to line up in 24th.
In 25th place, it'll be Andrew Perrunt in the number 93, and Chris Taylor on the outside in the 53 car in 26th.
In 27th is going to be Aaron Smith in the 71. Next to him, Chris Hayes in the 08 in 28th.
29th place, Tony Chow in the number 68 car out of Ohio, and Josh Cade, now he's streaming on Twitch, in 30th in his number 97. Got a couple more rows of drivers. We're going to let them scroll on the bottom of the screen because they're ready to go racing from Summit Point Motorsports Park at the front of the field. On the outside is Paul Darling, and I like where he is on the outside lane as the green flag is going to fly. We're racing the 2020 SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge is green. It's a long run down to turn number 1. 40 cars underway. And getting on the binders, there is the 55 on Darling, poking out a line. Car off, that's Bresci in the 24, trying to get the binders slowed on down as they make it to the first corner. A little bit of contact at the front of the field. So far, so good. Everyone taking their time through that first corner, Finian.
Yeah, that was really dangerous there. That could have been bad for Bresci if he didn't get that car back under control, but was able to. As you see the first few cars in line, single file, still some side-by-side action midfield as they head through turn 3.
First timer to head through this corner, heard a little bit of contact, still all clean and green through the first couple sectors here, side by side deeper in the field. There's Brian Sohn back there as we trudge down to turn number 4. DJ, a wild start here. Obviously the drivers at the front, the quicker they can break away, the better off they are, but we still got a lot of action midfield there, DJ.
Yeah, I'm curious if Tom is going to work with Tom. I'm going to totally butcher this guy's name, but if Tom works with Chris Henn, then they might not lose this pack. But Chris is already a couple car lengths too many back from Ken Husil there, and Ken's very fast. So I think Chris can catch him, but this might be the beginning of a pack breaking off in the top of this Miata field here.
Nick Del Campo up 5 spots in 1 lap, so he was opportunistic. There's 21 and Mitchell Peak. He had a really good end of the season last year. There's a lot of dirt in the exit of turn number 10 there, Finian, so they're struggling to keep their grip levels up. There's the 43 car popping the line. That's Kevin Zhu. Where did he start? How about 18th? Hasn't gotten very much anywhere, but he's going to try to get that spot back on fast. So look at the defensive lines heading down towards turn number 1.
Yeah, everyone trying to defend their spots. You see the 21 leading that kind of group. That's Mitchell Peak in 16th, trying to hold off some guys in behind.
Up in second place, Paul Darling and Jesse Stevens. Darling pulls out a line there, DJ. Looks like he might have some issues, internet-related perhaps, but Chris Henn, let's talk about him. We called him the postman last year because he was so used to sending it. Is he a threat to win one of these races tonight?
Yeah, Chris is always a threat. He has the unique ability to be fast the entire race and still have great tires at the end. So watch for him at the end of the race. And look, it's already starting to break away here, the top 5.
So a couple drivers breaking away at the front of the field, and a couple drivers side by side up in front. Kurt Crum also, we're familiar with him from the Sim Championship Racing Series on iRacing. He's in that green and white car, the 007 right now. There's Mitchell Peak back there, Ismael Basso. Back up at the front though, Jonathan White leading this thing. And there's car off. That is Paul Darling, it looks like, dropping a wheel in turn 9. There goes head on through.
Yeah, he's been having trouble after trouble. So now it's effectively the top 3 that are broken away from the rest of the field. Chris Henn and Darling kind of still back there trying to get back up to, and then it's the rest of the pack led by Tom Abramatis in the 29.
So really clean so far. We have not had a single spin or off yet so far this race. Bit of a bobble at the exit. There's a car way offline out there. Is that perhaps Aaron Smith in the number 71? And indeed it is. He's gone for a bit of a ride, but he'll pull it back on course.
Great save by Aaron, but he's going to drop quite a few spots from 27th where he started all the way back to 37th.
We're 2 and 3 wide on the front straightaway, heading down into turn 1 again. This is all the way back in 31st place, and they're racing just as hard back here as they are at the front of the field. How about Brian Sohn in the Penguin RC Simulations car? Back in 31st position. Still lots of battling, but up at the front, Jonathan White we talked about, but DJ, Jesse Stevens was so good last season, and here he is sitting in second, and I think he's got a great chance to win this thing.
He told me not to commentate, curse him, so I'm not going to say anything about Jesse Stevens. So this is for you, Jesse. This is the only time I won't say anything about your race.
Well, I'll definitely say something about him, and definitely expect some good things out of Jesse Stevens, because he ran pretty well last season, especially with Chris Henn. And Henn, I've been keeping an eye, and he's actually made some decent amount of time. Ooh, a big crash down in turn 6.
Yeah, there's Lekowitz in this as well as Chris Pays in the 08 car, so they've had a bit of an off. Let's go back and take a look at exactly how this happened. And it looks like Lekowitz was on the inside. Does he get... I think they tried to go 3 wide back here. No, the 08 got turned.
Yeah, that green and black car.
Back a little bit farther, and let's see if we can pick out exactly how this happened. It was the 23 of Jack Sanchez. They were 3 wide. This is between turns 5 and 6 here, DJ. And this is just, you see, whose fault is that? It looks like the inside car came over a little bit, perhaps.
It's got to be the burgundy and white car. He probably saw the car that's, on the side of him to the front, and he probably thought when the spotter said left side, that's who he was talking about. Didn't realize there's another car there. Yeah, it's easy to do.
Yeah, Chris Pays in the 08. A lot of cars out there. That's our first incident so far, so I'm sure Race Control is very pleased at how this has started so far. But Jonathan White continues to lead. 15 minutes left in this first race. Tom Abramatis in the 29 car. Michael Borden, Sam Scott, 6th, 7th, 8th. Robert Hartley in 9th, DJ. He was the runner-up last season, and he's certainly got a chance to maybe be one better this season.
I'm kind of curious what's happening with Robert, and I'm more curious what's going on with Paul Darling. He had great pace in the beginning of the race, and maybe a technical issue or something. He's hanging on to the back of this draft train here. He might be making time on Chris. It's a little hard to tell. It looks like he's kind of hanging even. He's the connector between these two groups here. So if Tom can start catching Paul starts catching that front group, we might have a train of 20 cars again.
That was Max Bowman off to the side of the racetrack in turn number 6, but White continues to try to drive away from Jesse Stevens, not getting very far. Ken House-Seal in 3rd place, though, Finney. We know how good Ken is. We've seen him be fast in pretty much everything, and he owns a ND Miata in the real world, so we know he's good. I'm going to cut you off real quick, though, because we got a little bit of an issue. Chris Taylor, there's a big mess out of turn number 10. Evan Schickles in there as well. That's the purple car.
Oh,
there's a motorboat out in turn number 1 as well.
Oh no, I think that was Chris.
Oh, was it? And he did that his exact same thing at Laguna Seca last year.
Yeah.
Here's a look at the incident. Mitchell Peak in the 21, the 77, they get together. That's where that incident happened. For sure. And then we heard the 33 of Chris Henn. Yeah, down into turn 1. Here's a look.
Tragic.
Oh man, that's tough to see.
Tragic.
And that's just downshifting too early there, DJ, and overriding the engine.
Yeah, these cars are a little weird. The car actually rewards you to flirt with danger there. If you use the engine to brake the car, it saves the fronts. You can brake the car sooner. That might be part of the reason why Chris can run fast and have good tires at the end. It's a weird intricacy of driving this car fast, and honestly, last year I just never did that, just because you pop one engine and it greatly affects your season.
So almost halfway through this race already. That's how fast things go. We've seen a couple drivers blow engines, have offs, but for the most part, we're still clean and green here, Finian. So it looks like the incident involving cars 16, 08, and 23, that was the one between 5 and 6, is under review at the moment. Down the front straightaway, battle for the lead here, Finian. It's White, Stevens, House-Seal. Yeah, and effectively with Chris and out of the fight, it's effectively down to the 3-car battle. You see Darling trying to catch back up to the leaders to have a fight. Here comes Stevens on the outside of the 22 of White. Gonna have a look. Nope, he's gonna back out. Over under. Wow, what a move. Great move by the 13. He's sounded like twins there for a second. Gonna get the spot before they even get down to turn 3, so great move.
You guys had a great harmony there.
That was beautiful. That was a beautiful thing, DJ. 12 and a half minutes to go. Ken House-Seal in 3rd place. Is he planning right now, DJ? What's going through his head at the moment while he's sitting behind these 2 leaders? Do you need to be in 2nd to get the win on the last lap, or can you sit in 3rd and maybe wait for these 2 to tangle?
That's not a great idea, but I mean, you still got 12 minutes to go. If I was Ken, I'd be sitting there saving tires, just kind of watching these 2 mix it up, and hope that they kind of stop, because you don't want Paul Darling to join that group. He qualified 2nd on the grid, so we know he has pace. He just had some issues in the beginning. Still not sure what that was. We'll have to figure out what that was during the interviews. Hopefully Paul's in those, but yeah, you just if I was Ken, I'd just sit back, save tires, and then maybe with 3 or 4 laps to go, start poking and prodding them, figure out what your attack's going to be.
Yeah, and just got an update. The incident we saw at turn 10 of the 21 and the 77, that was Mitchell Peak involved. That incident's going to be under review as well, so the admin's getting to work here. Yeah, and it took a couple laps for that to start happening, but now we got, again, a side-by-side battle for the lead. There's a long string of cars in the background led by, looks like 5th place Michael Borden in that blue 42 car, but here comes White back up the inside through turn number 1. One thing I'm also taking a look at, Finney, look at offline, how many marbles there are. And I should ask DJ, marbles aren't really a thing that we see a whole lot in iRacing, but they do happen, they do exist. Is that much of a concern at all, or are these drivers not worrying about that?
Honestly, in iRacing, it really doesn't affect the car that much. The dirt on the track does affect the car a little bit. You'll wonder, oh man, I used to be able to brake here, and now I have to brake back here, and it will be because the dirt's on the track, depending on your graphic settings. I run mine super low because I want all the frames, but yeah, the dirt affects it more than the little rubbery bits that you see on track.
So keeping that in mind, we're about halfway through this race. We got a couple drivers at the front that have broken away. Michael Borden, though, in the 42, perhaps one of the most improved drivers at the tail end of 2019, Finian. He started in 8th spot. He's up 3 spots to 5th. Yeah, this is good because this is essentially where we saw him towards the end of the season last time around. And, you know, at the beginning of the season, he was maybe a 20th place driver or about, maybe a little bit higher than that, but it really became a top 5 and a potential winning driver by the end of the season. And you're currently running in 5th with a great run.
And we'll see if he can go. I don't think he'll be able to catch the leading drivers, too, especially worrying about the guys in behind him, but is looking at a really solid 5th place finish. If you see the 0-3 of Hartley making a pass on the 29.
Robert Hartley, you're very familiar with, DJ. You battled him for several race wins last season. You were surprised that he wasn't farther up the field. Do you think the new tire has thrown off Robert Hartley, or is it something else?
It's got to be something else. I mean, I race Robert all the time in the ND Miata, and the NC is a lot easier to drive than the ND, and Robert's still a wheel man, even with the changes to the tire recently. So he can drive the V7 tires. There must be something else going on. He's working through the pack really well.
Thomas Baresi, take a look. Oh, that's real tight there on the 29 car as they head through turn number 4, tracking out. Gonna have an opportunity. The 29 covers, and Baresi can't fit down the inside there, Finian. Hole opens again, gonna try to shove it up here, but now you're on driver's left for a couple right-handers.
Yeah, now gonna turn it back on, trying to do a crossover back on the 29, but again, the section really tight, very much follow the leader. Unfortunately, Baresi gonna have to sit in behind and follow him on through.
And attacking the curbs here as much as possible. Want to get your tires up on that to help the car rotate. We do have a battle up at the front again, though. Jesse Stevens and Jonathan White continue their fight. DJ, 8.5 minutes to go.
They're not really trying to get in front of each other, or if they are, it's really just they're gathering intel to see what those last couple of laps are going to be like. And Paul Darling sitting back there going, yes, please, because he wants to be in that battle, and he is closing in. The draft on the NC is not as quite as strong as you think it would be. It really only pulls the car in once you get the 5th gear, and only if you're within a second.
Yeah, effectively, Paul Darling's pretty much there. I was watching his lap times last 2 laps. He was gaining tenths on the guys up ahead, and he's pretty much caught up to the tail end of that group. Still having some internet issues, so he's going to have to be a little bit careful with that.
Yeah, taking it a little bit deeper in the field to Mitchell Peak in the 21. Have we heard back from race control on this incident here, Finian? There's damage on the nose of that 21 car. We do have a penalty for the 77, incident responsibility and a drive-through penalty. Car 21, Mitchell Peak, a warning for avoidable contact. That is what was given out there. There's AJ Milner in the 85. Haven't talked about him yet today. Started in 36. He's up to 23rd, Finian. A big climb so far for that baby blue car.
Yeah, so some...
Sorry, Finian. Another big mover is Tony Chow. He went from 29th to 18th so far.
Wow. Up 11 spots for blue and white car. That's Tony Chow. There's a look. And yes, 29th to 18th for him. And a little bit deeper in the field, Gustavo Pergato in the number 11 car. He's actually slipped backwards 13 spots. Had a bit of an off in turn 3 a little while ago. Trying to work his way by Aaron Smith in the 71, who's only gained 2 spots right behind him. Corentin Dubois in the 76 car, 38th to 27th, plus 11 for him as well.
Yes, a lot of the guys that didn't really qualify too well are now fighting their way up through the pack as he gets a pretty bad exit out of the corner. They're going to lose touch with Pergato up ahead. Yeah,
and turn 9, DJ, seems so important because you have that corner in turn 10, but you're still carrying momentum on the front straightaway that you built up in turn number 9. So that seems like a very important corner to get right.
Yeah, for sure. Any momentum you're carrying out of 9, because you just need some momentum to plant the front tires to get the car twisted in for 10. And yeah, like you said, any momentum you're carrying into that just means that you're just going to have a slightly higher cornering speed for 10.
Sam Scott, Robert Hartley, real tight there at the exit of turn 3. I've seen drivers behaving pretty well here at the exit of 3, Finian. Not a lot of tire marks in the gravel, so people have been respecting that. They are dragging some dirt back on course, though, so that's a consideration for later in the race. 6 minutes to go here as we got a little bit of a battle down into turn 5. That's Nick Del Campo in the 15 car. He started in 20th, up to 11th spot, almost breaking the top 10, and a few more cars to get through to get inside that top 10.
Yeah, well, on the right side, at least they're all directly ahead of him, so he can make some quick work here, although he's got to start getting to work, as we only got just under 6 minutes now left in this race.
And Robert Hartley all the way over Sam Scott again. They've really lost the lead. They don't have any way to get back to the leader, so now they're just battling for 5th spot with Michael Borden right in front.
Yeah, and actually Borden's starting to break away from this pack too, which is an impressive feat. It's not easy to break away from the guys in behind you, so he's starting to pull away. They might try to catch back up to him, but it's got a little bit of a gap to work with as Sam Scott and Hartley are going at it.
Look at him weaving down that front straightaway there, DJ, trying to break that draft. You said it's not quite as effective, but it's still something. And these cars don't have a whole lot of power, so anything you can get is probably worth a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Paul Darling's fallen off from the pack up here. He was right up on them, and we're side by side going into 3 here. Kind of curious. Okay, so yeah, they're still behaving for the most part. John White's a pretty easy guy to race with. He's not going to do anything too wild. He's pretty conservative for the most part. There's sometimes where he feels like he has to like kick it up another notch, and that's kind of when he gets himself in trouble, but I know he's been working on that a lot.
Well, we'll see if he's going to kick it up a notch here because he's running out of time and is sitting in that second place spot. I'm also worried, well, not worried, I'm curious what the 94 Ken Alceo's got in store. He's been sitting in third pretty much all race.
He's a wild card, right? He's been hanging out here, and we know he's better than a third place car. And see White track out a little bit wide at the exit of 9 in the dirt and very carefully coaxing that car back on track, DJ. It's so easy to drop a wheel off there and correct it and fly off into the trees on the other side.
Yeah, he kicked it up a notch.
4 minutes and 20 seconds left. It's about 3 laps from here to the end. So we'll keep an eye on these leaders. They continue to battle. Check back in with our fight for 5th place. So actually, Sam Scott, Robert Harley have tracked Borden back down. This is ultimately for P5.
Yeah, Scott going to get a great drive. We see Borden going immediately defensive down into turn 1, hoping that Scott goes on the outside. Scott is going to go there. Good luck on the outside, side by side. Harley going to sneak on the inside, 3 wide into turn 1. Harley's going to track out wide though, and he's going to lose a lot of spots.
Oh yeah, that's 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 spots gone. Just chucked it too deep down into the corner there, DJ. And there is ABS in these cars, but couldn't quite get it slowed down.
Yeah, sometimes the draft is a lot stronger than you think it is, and you go to hit the brakes and you know you messed up. That's one of those situations.
AJ Miller on the 85 is going to go for a bit of a ride at the exit of turn 1. He'll pull back on track. Whoa! Couple cars streaking on by there. Ryan Wagoner in the 17, Brian Shabelski in the 12, and we have not seen anything from Shabelski today. He was actually, he ran a couple races last season, ran pretty well from what I recall, but this is certainly not the day that he needed.
No, it's not. It's been fairly uneventful for him, so we'll see if race 2 bodes anything better for the 12. I mean, obviously...
Well, Dusty out of turn 3 over there right now.
Yeah, obviously the start in the running position doesn't tell the full story, so we'll see if this 12 has anything in store for race number 2.
That will be coming up just after the conclusion of this race, so when this race is over, don't go anywhere. We're going to talk to your podium finishers at the end of the broadcast. So as soon as this race is over, we're going to jump to break for about 5 to 6 minutes. We'll be right back with race number 2. This race all over again, but gridded by how you finish in race 1. Leaders battle down the front straight, Finian.
Yeah, here they go side by side, and it's going to easily be White just yielding to the 13 for now. I think he's waiting for the last lap to make that move.
I'm curious what Ken's doing.
Yeah.
I feel like if he's got to start poking and prodding to see how he can get by these guys. Maybe Jesse is just that fast where he's afraid if he attacks, Jesse's going to get away.
Oh, big bobble by the 13 in turn number 3. That brought John White right to the rear bumper. He swings out to driver's left, tries to get the nose in there. Doors slam as they head down towards turn 4 and 5. He tucks back in line into the braking zone.
Hey, it was a similar situation with Bresci earlier on, so White going to still remain in behind. But yeah, I think Cal still, he's got to make a move at least this time by into turn 1 to because remember, he's in third, so he's got to pass 2 guys.
Yeah, he has to pass him and then catch Jesse again and then make a run down the front straight. So him not even poking on John, he's not getting any intel on exactly how to get by that driver. And Paul's right back up here. Maybe Paul's the driver to win this thing.
We're going to find out in just over a minute. It'll be white flag last lap for race number 1 this time through as they trudge through the dirt that's at the exit of the corner. Look at the run that John White's got onto the front straight. Goes to the inside and the crash swings back to driver's left down the front straight. White flag in the air, 1 lap to go from Summit Point.
But that swinging definitely had to take some speed off. So yeah, see his run's killed. Oh, here comes Ken.
And finally waiting to make a move down into turn 1 to the outside of the 22 of John White. Not enough alongside. It's on the poor part of the track. You don't want to be on that outside. You want to be in the inside in turn 1. And you see White able to defend fairly easily.
And Jesse Stevens wants these two to fight right now, DJ, because if they fight, he's gone, and Jesse Stevens can take the race 1 victory.
Right. If Jesse puts his mastermind pants on right now, he's gonna back up John into Ken because he knows Ken's hungry. Like if I'm in Jesse's position right now, I'm purposely trying to back John into spots where I can't be passed, but Ken might start attacking John, and then you just fly away.
Bit of an off step there by Paul Darling, slid out to driver's right, trying not to rear end the 94, but I think his chance for a victory might be gone here because these front 2 have kind of got a 2 car length gap there, Finian.
Yeah, I was gonna gonna say it's pretty much down to White going for Stevens pretty much in the final corner. This is gonna be his last shot to get a chance to win in the first race of the season.
Here we go, up the hill on a turn number 9, running down to 10. This is the final corner. Jonathan White right behind Jesse Stevens in the 13. Leaves a space.
Gotta make the move here.
Here he comes. Out of turn 10, checkered flag waving. Who can get it done? Drag race to the start-finish line. Jesse Stevens, Jonathan White at the line. Here they come, and it's gonna be Jesse Stevens by, wow, 85 thousandths of a second there, Finian.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be just Stevens, Jonathan White, Ken O'Seal, Paul Darling in 4th, and then in behind in 5th is gonna be Michael Borden, Thomas Bretzi, Sam Scott, Steve Ficacci, Tom Averatis, and Nick Del Campo rounding out your top 10.
That was really dicey there. 85 thousandths of a second. We'll go back and look at the margin here in just a moment. As we wait for the rest of the field to come on through, there was some battling and a couple offs deeper in the field on those closing few laps. Josh Caden now, the 97 car, he'll come through in 19th place. He started the race back in 30th, so plus 11 for him. Ismael Basso in the 40, we saw him go off. He ends up finishing 21st. Brian Sohn up 10. Good run for him. Let's go back and take a look at the finish of that race as they were coming to the start-finish line. Really dicey there out of turn number 10. It was the run all the way to the checkers, Finian. It was tight.
It really was, and he tried to make that move work, you know, or have something out of the final corner. You know, the finish line maybe it was a little bit further down the straight. He could have had something, but you see him there, just not enough.
Real tight.
You know, John could have won that race if he threw the car around too much and kind of killed his run with it sliding sideways going down the front straight. All he had to have was a nose to start the battle going into 1. You don't have to finish the battle in 1. Like I said in the beginning of this whole thing, you just start the fight through 1 and then you're side by side. The fight finishes at 5, however it's going to finish out.
There's your unofficial results right now. It was Jesse Stevens, White, House-Seal, Paul Darling, Michael Borden, your top 5. Robert Hartley outside the top 10 in the first race of the season. There are 2 drop rounds here, Finian, so it's not the end of the world, but you are going to have to finish top 5, maybe even top 3, almost every race to win this championship.
Yeah, and also we saw a very surprising mistake out of him down in turn 1, and that also cost him quite a few spots. So we'll see if he can turn around in race number 2, and it really all depends on, you know, being able to catch and be with that leading pack to have a shot at a good finish. So he's gonna have to do a little bit better in race number 2, which I don't think he can, and he's probably gonna want to after his finish in this first race.
Yeah, big disappointment for Chris Henn. Blew the motor down into turn 1. He's gonna be a lot more careful on the downshifts. These cars are pretty fragile when you downshift, so you have to be careful not to blow that motor. We'll be back in just a few minutes for race number 2. Don't go anywhere. We're gonna hear a word from our sponsors, Ricknotech and Level Up Racing School. Thanks for being with us. We'll be back in a few.
Would you like to have a career in racing, and if so, what would you like to do, Dale?
Well, I want to be a race car driver someday. That's, it's all I've ever known, racing.
What did you want to be when you grew up? So many people live a life of what if. Go to school, go to college, get a 9-to-5. This is how we support our dreams, with a safety net. Because we're unsure about taking a leap of faith. Because we're afraid. As we grow, we cross things off our list of dreams. We cut them down, make them realistic. Having control of things is reassuring. But for some, the rush of being out of control is what gives them life. Some say racing cars is reckless. Maybe they're right. Out of bounds isn't just cheating, it's cheating death. Football fields made up in seconds. Decisions made in instants. For the people that climb behind the wheel of these cars, they're not driving it. They become part of it. It's an extension of the body. As a child, I looked up to these people, faces hidden by helmets. The less you saw of the driver, the more believable it became that they were, in fact, just part of the machine. It's easy to forget that inside the cockpit is someone just like us, but with the mindset that fear is a motivation, not a barrier. But the reality is, race car drivers are not like us. They never cross anything off their list of dreams. They just keep writing more. Daytona.
Come to the line. This is the finish of the Daytona 500. Side by side.
Le Mans. Indianapolis. Monaco. Places that used to be just places, now international symbols of victory. To those that enjoy the spectacle of racing, the 2 feet of concrete and steel cables are a wall between us and them, between sitting in the grandstands and standing in victory lane. These same walls are a stark, immovable reminder that racing drivers put their lives on the line for the sake of the thrill and entertainment. Despite the risk, despite the heartbreak, despite the cost. There are some on the sidelines who are fascinated by the danger. They are fascinated by speed, fascinated by the undying desire to be just a little bit better. Their dreams, erased by geography, finances, or the lack of a famous last name. There are some who once wished to be a race car driver, but aren't. because they didn't get the chance. And they thought they'd spend the rest of their lives watching their heroes on television or from the other side of the fence. They thought it was impossible to climb into a race car, so they crossed it off their list. But it's not impossible. There is a ticket to the other side of the fence. For those who want it bad enough, this is your chance.
Welcome back live to Winding Road Magazine and Sim TV. My name's Kyle Heyer, joined by Finian Dcunha and DJ Alessandrini. We're back for race number 2. It took a little bit longer than we anticipated, but we're about to line up and get ready to go racing for another 20-minute racing event here in just a minute here, Finian. We saw race 1. It was Jesse Stevens that took home the victory, and now in race 2, he'll get to start from the pole.
Yeah, and really looking forward to seeing if he can hold on yet again with the field closed back in on each other. I'm interested in seeing if we saw a fairly small lead group, which kind of surprised me. I was expecting to see a leading pack of about 8 cars. We only saw pretty much half of that for most of that race, and we didn't even see a lot of passing up there really until Stevens got past White for the lead. So I'm interested in seeing now if we're going to see the same thing with a 4-car breakaway and the same group of guys. We're going to see something different and some different players up the front.
DJ, any tidbits before we get ready to go racing tonight?
Yeah, so I went and looked for some of the drivers. John White was content with second, so he wasn't going to force the issue. He just wanted a good starting position for race 2. Ken was waiting for John to fight Jesse, but never happened because he was content in the second position. Paul Darling reset his router and he's crossing his fingers. That's the inside info.
Oh, okay. So basically everyone's boring. Is basically what we're finding.
Okay, we gotta get ready to go racing here. We got a lap to get through this, Finian, so let's roll through our starting lineup. Maybe we won't narrate all the way through because this is just the finishing order from the first race, but we're gonna let it scroll along the bottom of the screen. Thanks again to Level Up Racing School and Rick Motec for joining us to provide per race prizes. Rick Motec gave a $25 gift card for every race winner of the night, so Jesse Stevens already racked one of those up.
Yeah. Which makes it more surprising, again, when you put prizes on the line, it's kind of surprising that these guys aren't trying, to go just a little bit more for that win. I am curious now, especially because these guys, Darling all the way out in the grass.
Well, because he's, again, dealing with internet problems, so I think he's struggling still.
That's not good for him.
No.
But with the other guys up in the front, I'm curious, you already got your solid finish for the night. You got a solid amount of points towards your name. Now, do you force the issue, try to gain more points by potentially taking the winner, or are you going to be a little bit more conservative again?
I'm always a fan of being conservative at the beginning of the season, just so you don't get yourself caught up in incidents. Again, we're working with a brand new group of drivers tonight, Finian, or at least a lot of them are. All the drivers in the white base cars are new to the series. So if you're a driver that ran the series last year, you kind of know what to expect. You also kind of have experience in these cars. A lot of these drivers that are here tonight might not have ever raced this car before in iRacing. They might have raced the ND Miata or other levels of the iRacing service, but maybe not this particular car. There's some weirdness to it, a little different than the ND, a little more understeery. So I think there's a lot that needs to be learned tonight. And I think the best way to learn is to just get laps in. And if that just means finishing the race and maybe not winning it, I think that's a safe bet to play. So, rest of the field rolling along the bottom of your grid there. A couple drivers that had some bad runs in race 1 that want to do a little bit better. Jack Sanchez in the 23, Chris Henn in the 33, all the way back in 40th. DJ, what's his plan here?
Just try to score some kind of points. You never know when you're going to have a bad race. But you said something where you want to play conservative, Kyle, and I'm going to have to disagree with you. You just want to be consistent. You want to set the precedent. You want to let everybody know, hey, this is how I'm going to race. I'm going to turn down on you if you only got an inch. You just want to set the precedent on how you're going to race so people can get a feel it out for you. You don't want to drastically change your mindset and how you want to race from one race to the other, because then you'll be unpredictable and you're going to get caught up in incidents.
All right, so there's DJ's input here as we roll through turn number 10. Time to go racing again for race 2 of round 1 of the 2020 SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge. Green flag in the air, and race number 2 is underway. 20 minutes on the board as they roar down to turn number 1. And their Miatas 40 strong as we head down to 1, Finian.
Yeah, Jonathan White trying to get a draft off of Stevens up ahead, maybe make a dive. Ken O'Seal looked like he might have fancied to move it up the inside of the 22-foot. Very orderly start down into turn 1, much more orderlier than
That's not a
race
word,
1.
but we'll roll with it. And again, I've been really impressed with how few incidents we've seen. A little bit of a stack up there at the exit of turn 1, but I'm really impressed with how few incidents we've seen here as we rumble to turn number 3, head up over the tops of the curbs here and watch the track out. Don't want to get yourself a penalty here. Side by side, a little bit deeper in the field. That's hardly out of line. Back in 9th place. And
he's
the rest
a man,
of the field side by side.
And he's a man on a mission trying to make it back up to the front in 9th place. Remember, he didn't finish outside the top 10 in race 1, which is very uncharacteristic for him considering he was in the championship fight last season. As you see a bunch of guys side by side, some contact down at turn 5.
That's John D. Allen making a move to the inside lane. Very opportunistic there. Hardy up 2 spots from his 18th place starting position. So he's trying to move his way forward. Side by side a little bit deeper. There's Aaron Smith, that's that yellow 71. And Gil Winningham in the bright, or actually the dark green 81 car on the outside of 8. Look at the hop over the curb there, DJ. And again, the shorter way you can go around the racetrack, the better. And you're going to use those curbs to your advantage.
Oh yeah, for sure. These things love curbs. You just smash them all day and you're going to be okay.
And now the 97 car to the inside. That's Josh Caden. Now remember, he's got a stream live on Twitch right now, twitch.tv/Josh Caden. Now if you want to watch his on board, he's going to be passing a whole lot of cars tonight. Look at them all fan out. There's Brian Sohn back there in the number 30 car, out side by side. It looks like we're 3 wide in the back of the field here. Actually, just more towards the middle. Back in 23rd is Brian Sohn.
Yeah, a big group of cars heading down into turn 1 here. Who's going to try to break the other? Deep on the brakes for Sohn up the inside. Working on the 64, that's Justin Hall, 24th.
Hall started 24th, remains in 24th. Up in first place, still Jesse Stevens, Jonathan White, Ken O'Seal, our top 5 exactly as they were in race 1. But how about Thomas Presti there, Finian? We've seen him last season, didn't really get the finishes he probably deserved. He was at least a top 10 driver, at least most of the time, but had a lot of bad luck.
Yeah, but no, I think he's definitely looking to change that luck around this time this season. So far done a really solid job. I believe finished around 7th or 8th. In race number 1, so is running pretty much where he's actually finishing 6th in race 1. So is doing a solid job already tonight. And I think the big key difference is looking at that the leading group of cars. These guys all close together still.
98 ran wide there. Sam Scott barely hanging on. That is a very treacherous place. You can end up in the woods super easy there. So good job from him gathering that car back up.
A little defensive down the front straight again, Finian, just building that gap. Stevens, Whitehouse, Seal, the front 3. But the rest of the field is pretty orderly still, so they're not really breaking away as quickly as we expected. There's hardly out of line. This is for 8th place on Scott.
And again, back up the inside for him. We saw last time this didn't work out well for him, but Scott going to completely miss the corner. Harley Easy going to get the spot.
Back a little bit back deeper in the field. They're still side by side. Here's Evan Schickel, who had a bit of an off in race number 1 to his inside Corentin Dubois in the 76 car. He started this race in 25th. He's actually dropped backwards to 29th. Not a great start for him. Chris Taylor in the 53, 42nd to 35th, plus 7 back here, and making good time doing it. That's that black car.
There's some solid progress forward. We'll see how much more he can advance in the time remaining in this race.
Smokey there, a lot of dirt in the sky as he goes for a slide.
Save it.
No, gonna try to keep it on track. He can't, and he's off in the weeds there.
He's in the weeds, yep.
And that's the end of the day for the 53. Chris Henn all the way back in 41st. This has just been a disastrous day. Some rear end damage he's been run into, yeah.
Yeah, remember what I was saying at the top of the show? You have to make sure you finish well in race 1, because that's also going to determine where you're going to finish more or less in race number 2, and we're pretty much seeing that in effect. Starting 40th, he's actually back 1 spot, back in 41st. Yeah, not a good race for the 33.
he'll be looking to forget this night for sure.
Chris Taylor we already talked about. John D. Allen had a bit of an off there, I think. Well, we see someone way off in the background there. Let's see what driver that was, one of the pink cars. Going for a bit of an excursion off track.
You guys exploring
One might
the track.
call it a safari.
Yeah, guys exploring the track limits around here. You know, they were warned about turn 3, and actually, I am surprised we've seen the guys be as clean as they have been through turn 3. I guess, you know, being threatened with a penalty is going to make you stay in line, so we're seeing that.
Jonathan White still holding on to second. Really nothing to report up here. I mean, they're to the untrained eye, DJ, they look like they're battling, but they're really just kind of hanging out, trying to drive away from the guys behind.
Yeah, they might be trying to save the tires. I'm sure Ken's going to try to mix it up a little bit more since he I would hope that he'd realize that waiting for these guys to fight might not be the golden ticket here. That generally doesn't work out. Normally you want to be the one that fights. Because then you're gathering the intel, like what's going to work, what's not going to work.
Oh,
like, that's
we're
important.
3 wide here, DJ. There's going to be a problem. Ismael Basso. Oh, hard hit for Mitchell Peak as well.
So many wrecked race cars.
And that was a big hit.
And Peak is going to get wrecked out again in the second race. This is not another racer that's struggling with the start of the season, returning from last time. It's just not gone well for the 21.
It's one of those things you can see coming from a mile away. They're just trying to go 3 wide. There's just not enough space. Winningham maybe squeezed over to the right a bit too much, but I just don't think you can do 3 wide really anywhere here without getting yourself into trouble. Now look at this battle for the lead. Now we're fighting 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 cars all in this lead group now.
Yeah,
there we go.
White turning up the heat here, trying to go side by side with Stevens here. They're still going to be side by side heading to turn 3. I think the 22 is going to yield now and fall back in line, but made an attempt. Who's going to have another look? Try to have a look up the inside in turn 3, building up a run as these guys are on the edge.
Look behind them. They're stepping out double wide as they head towards 4. That's looks like Del Campo in the 15. That's the blue card. There's Thomas Bresci. Ooh, look at the 42 of Borden a little bit sideways in the braking zone, knocking on the rear bumper of that 55 there, DJ.
Yeah, Michael Borden's he's tough to race against. He's totally willing to wreck that car at any moment, and you know it when you're driving against him. You know that he's willing to throw it all down.
Throw it all down, but he's sitting in 5th and kind of in a nice spot right now. He needs to be a little bit farther up to have a shot at the win. 13 minutes to go. We're not quite to halfway yet. Front 2 starting to now just kind of creep away from House Hill, but the front straight's going to bring everybody right back into form here. Seen this.
It's a great pack.
Yeah, sure is. We've seen this is again. Usually you see 3 to 5 car breakaways here, DJ. But look at it. I mean, we got 10 cars in that group. Maybe even more than that. 12, 13. There's John D. Allen back there as well as Drew Reinhardt in the 69. Now you got to worry about the accordion effect as everyone gets on the brakes following each other in. That's a concern, Finian. You're following too closely. It's easy to get yourself an avoidable contact penalty.
Yeah, that's easy to get. There you see Hartley's trying to make a pass on the, I believe that's the 15 of Nick Del Campo that he's trying to make a move on.
Campo's blue and white car. A GRM on the side of that. And a little bit wide goes the 24, dragging the wheel off. That's okay, just can't gain an advantage doing that. Hartley gets squeezed to driver's left as they head down to 4. Contact, he gets doored as they head down the hill, DJ.
Oh, somehow he held on to it, though. That's just a testament of how good Hartley actually is. You got doored heading through 4 and keep it on the track, you're basically a legend.
That was pretty impressive, I'll give him that.
I thought he was going to go flying off into tire barrier, but he's going to keep the spot, have a shot at getting that spot back, and still running pretty in 8th, and he can lose a spot change.
So 11 minutes and 37 seconds to go. We're almost halfway in the second race of the night. Remember, if you're interested in keeping track of the SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge, you can check the schedule in the description below. Make sure you subscribe to catch all the rest of the races. This season runs through August, I believe, or July or August, so make sure you check the schedule below. If you want to watch more, they're every couple weeks for the next couple months. In your off time, your downtime, make sure you join us here on Winding Road Magazine's YouTube channel. If you're interested in us as we got a battle for the lead, you can head to www.youtube.com/SimTV Broadcasting. Link in the description for us. As we battle side by side at a turn 1 there, Finian, White, and Stevens. They're going at it early here. Maybe they're feeling a little bit comfortable.
Yeah, and again, this is what I was talking about earlier about White. You know, he's got a solid second place finish under his belt now. Here's a chance to go for the lead. And here he's going to work around the outside in turn 3. And he can hold this. He can try to have a setup down into turn 4.
You You gotta wonder how far off is too far off there, DJ. Do you think the stewards will have a look as Halcyon bobbles? He's in the dirt, way deep into 5, and he's gonna tag the 13, and around goes Jesse Stevens, 4 wide, 3 wide, and everybody's stacked up.
It's a mess.
Everybody.
You know, this is why I would want to be John White. This is why you fight, because you create situations where things aren't in balance anymore, and things can happen. So right now, John White, huge lead out front. He just for the next 10 minutes, the guy just has to put in good laps. Maybe Michael Borden will catch him, and then it's just a 2-car fight.
Jesse Stevens got kind of bullied off to drivers right there by Nick Del Campo, who's going to take advantage of this and sneak his way up into 6. If he can clear House Seal, he will at the exit of 10. Use all the rumble strip on corner exit there. And look behind, there's the 0-2 car, John B. Allen, also creeping into the mix. Drew Reinhardt. How about Kurt Crum? He started this race in 14th. He started race 1 way at the back of the pack.
He's improved quite a bit, so he's up here towards the front, has a shot at gaining a few more spots. Something happened. Speaking of something happening, Brian Stone, it looks like the 14.
Yep, Rob Level in the 14.
Yeah.
And they're going to, rejoin the racetrack and a little bit more contact. A bit of a spin there. Let's go back and see exactly what caused that issue to happen. Oh, the 14 is going to just tag Stone right there and turn him around. That will almost certainly be a penalty or at least a warning. Finney, you got anything related to the other incidents?
Yeah, so looking here, regarding an incident with the 21 and the 43, we saw them making contact earlier.
Under review.
Yeah, no, the penalty was given to the 21 of Peak for that.
Yep.
Salt in the wound.
Yeah, and for the 43 as well, drive-through for both of them. And actually, the 43 was an incident limit violation.
Yeah, and nothing on Ken Alseal just yet, but DJ, do we expect maybe a drive-through or at least a warning for the slide down? I mean, they didn't crash, so maybe that's not really worth looking at, but certainly a little bit of a mistake kind of led to that stack up.
So Ken Alseal just now received a penalty for that. He got a drive-through penalty.
Here he comes. He's going to head to pit lane. So a drive-through penalty for the 94 for avoidable contact, and he'll have to serve that. That's really unfortunate, Finney, but that's the name of the game. You got to keep your car under control. He just stepped over the limit a little bit too much. Look at this 3-car breakaway, and look who's in third. Thomas Bresci.
Yeah, and he's stuck in line here, and you can see the Jeff Cordonell that he's running inside the cockpit, as well as the 24 on the side of that car, and he's sticking in this battle. And Borden's actually been catching back up to White. The gap when that first incident happened, it was a little over 9/10. It's down to 8/10 now, so Borden is making time on the 22 White. So White's got to be careful and start to pick up the pace. He'll keep that gap as is. Once the 42 gets in really solid draft range, it's going to be not necessarily game over, but he's going to have a lot more on his plate.
Yeah, there's a lot of action deeper in the field right now. How about Chris Henn in the 33? What a trooper. He is 40th to 25th and still climbing, trying to keep the nose on that car the best he can. Not a scratch on it so far, but still a long way to go to gather reasonable points for tonight.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the name of the game for him.
Okay, not a scratch on the front of the car.
Yeah, I guess that's a silver lining there. So white and red car off.
That's Michael Garome. Good back, air mode. We're gonna get that right eventually. We'll give it 100 tries, but some damage to that car as well. But he'll continue. And back up at the front, Jonathan White kind of driving away. But now, DJ, Borden and Bresci, do these two work together? And I see a tan car back here, Robert Hartley. We know that he's good enough to close this gap if he needs to.
Hartley making a hero run in this race to grab a decent amount of points after his race 1. It has to be a disappointment for him, somebody of Robert's caliber. But Robert looking at a good point. I'm not sure if Thomas and Michael are going to be able to work together. These cars really don't draft that well. I do see Thomas just kind of hanging in line and not fighting Michael to keep the pressure on John, because if those two start fighting, John doesn't have to push as hard as he is.
A little bit deeper in the field there is Ken Halcyon in the 94, back in 19th position. So he actually came out in front of about half the field even after serving that penalty, so that's actually quite fortuitous, rather. I mean, he could have dropped farther back. If that had happened earlier in the race, it would have been a lot worse. So he'll pull back on track about 20th, 19th spot. Back up at the front, just keeping an eye on these front 3 as they continue to race. 6 minutes to go. Next time by, it'll be about 4 laps worth of racing. Evan Schickel in the 77. We documented him earlier. 35th to 18th.
Yeah.
Good run for him so far.
Yeah, really solid run for him, although he can't gain much more than you see. There's a decent gap from him to the next car in line. It's just in all the 64 ahead of him in 17th, so he's trying to hold off Halcyon in behind.
And Halcyon's even got damage and should be able to go right on through the 77 car. Right to the rear bumper. And DJ, this has got to be a distraction for Ken. I mean, obviously you serve that penalty, come back out. Now you're with a bunch of drivers, a bunch of cars that you are not familiar with running with tonight. So you have to be even more careful not to get yourself in a secondary collision after you get put back in the pack like this.
Yeah, you also have to clear your head. I'm curious where Ken's mental fortitude is right now. Just, you know, you had a good points finish in the first race. You're fighting for the lead in the second race, and you're just 6 inches off, and it leads to you being in 19th place. You can't be feeling too great. So I'm curious how well Ken's gonna be able to just forget that, put your head down, and just do some laps.
Jesse Stevens fighting back, Finian. Got kind of punted out of second spot, and here he sits in 6th now, working over Paul Darling for a top 5.
Yeah, I don't think he's really got a shot at winning this race unless something major happens up ahead, but something might happen to him right now. It's Focacci wheeling it on the outside of that 51.
And here comes Nick Del Campo in the 15 behind into the braking zone, kind of moves him over. Stevens gets shoved off again. Can he keep it on the pavement? He will.
He's just been bullied.
Yeah, sometimes you're the bat, sometimes you're the ball, and Stevens has been the ball quite a bit tonight, so getting knocked off course. Here comes John D. Allen in the 02 and Tom Burbitis in the 29, who we've seen kind of hanging out at the tail end of the top 10 for most of the evening.
You know, for John not being eligible for any of the points, John's killing it out there right now. He's looking good.
Again, John D. Allen, one of the pro category drivers, not eligible for points. The same deal with Rob Lebel in the 14 car back in 38th spot. So Allen is not allowed to compete for points or the prize, but out here for fun. Car out wide in front of them. That was Paul Darling. It looks like Focacci. They're going to chase each other down the front straight, dragging each other down to the inside lane. They're Finian, the whole field follows.
Yeah, everyone's willing just to get a little bit of a slipstream, building up a run. Speaking of which, here comes Focacci trying to look to the outside of the 55, and Darling couldn't get it done. How about the 15? Big dive up the inside.
Oh, Stevens going to turn the 51, and Focacci's going to go sailing off into the dirt. And
bench?
Well, maybe. I mean, the 51 wasn't at fault for anything. Oh,
right,
down in
5.
5. You're right. I was thinking of the earlier incident. So yeah, maybe, but the stewards certainly won't look well on that if that's the case. That's going to be pretty hard to prove, though. I mean, this is just a hole that closes to me. But let's take another look. He's pretty far back there, though, DJ. You have to be established alongside before you get to the corner, and he just sailed it in there pretty deep.
Yeah, that was very optimistic.
Yeah, well, I'll be knowing Ryan and how he calls things, that is a 50-50 shot of being a drive-through or a warning. So it's going to be tough because they really did barely touch, and you know, netcode is a thing on here where the server predicts where the car is going to be, and sometimes it's a little wrong. So it's the incident actually is just now under review. So curious about how that one's going to play out.
See if it happens. 2 minutes and 42 seconds left. Next time through, which is going to be right now, 2 laps to go with a 3-car breakaway. But I don't see Borden or Bresci putting pressure on the leader.
He was starting to build up momentum, catching up to the 22, but that's kind of stopped now, and he's kind of stalled out around 7/10, 8/10 of a second. So I really don't think at this point he's got enough to make a run at Jonathan White. I have to see, though, unless he really pushes hard. Speaking pushing hard, Hen's been busy trying to gain up as many spots as possible. Currently in 21st, trying to make it up into 20th, trying to get around the the car in 20th, the 76 car.
And he'll dive up underneath. That is a top 20 position for Chris Hen. The postman is through, sent into P20 after starting in 40th, so plus 20 positions for that driver right there. So teal colors. I love the color of that car as well. It's a good looking livery he's got on board. And we want to thank Stephen Burbage, who put in a lot of time and effort into organizing the paint schemes for these cars and setting me up with a way to handle them, to get them all in the broadcast graphics. So thank you, Stephen, for your hard work. Kind of a thankless job. Nobody really sees the behind the scenes work before these events. So thank you, Stephen, for all that. 1 minute and 30 seconds left, guys. And we've got battles all over the racetrack, but not for the lead at the moment, DJ. Coming to the white for Jonathan White.
Yeah, John's been doing a great job. Just head down, put in some laps. So he's doing his job now. He's doing what he's got to do to win.
And white flag in the air this time through. 1 more lap to go in round 1 of SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge. Looking a little deeper, Jesse Stevens hits pit lane. That's probably because he got a drive-through penalty for the contact down in turn number 1, and there he is, and he'll come back out the other side. Still in the top 20, but that's a big penalty.
Yeah, And unfortunate thing too, as you go 3 wide down into turn 1,
I don't like
Kurt
that.
Crum up the middle.
And on the outside, it's Sam Scott in the 98.
Woo.
Big slide for the 29 car. And almost runs into him, but they're going to get that sorted out. Kurt Crum, 2 for 1.
Abramatis there in the 29. You're going to end up in 9th. Kurt Crum making some big moves. It's going to be a solid race for him. Going to just get inside the top 10. But what I was talking about with Jesse Stevens is he got a penalty on coming to the white flag. So he can't make up any more ground. He's pretty much stuck where he is. And there we see John DeAllen trying to make a move on Del Campo. Heading out to 4.
Back out and maybe take a look into 5, but the hole closes. Back up at the front of the field, though, Jonathan White played this perfectly here, DJ. He started this race in 2nd place, and he's going to come through in about a half a lap and take home a victory just by staying out of trouble. I think, and also having a lot of pace to keep Borden and Bresci behind him.
Yeah, I mean, when you start attacking people, it opens up the possibility of things getting mixed up a little bit. It makes things a little less predictable, and things can happen. And you know, the more things happen to your competitors and the less things happen to you, that just means that you open up a bigger point lead, and it's more beneficial for you. So being aggressive but keeping your car under control is definitely the way to do it. And great job on John for executing on that and keeping a clean car. I don't think he has any damage.
Oh, and he'll come through and win race 2 of the night. Michael Borden 2nd. Bresci, a podium for him. He's going to be really proud of that. Rest of the field kind of streaming on through here. And I got to say, we had 2 20-minute races with over 40 cars. There's a side-by-side battle. I think that was Chris Hennon, one of them. That was for 19th spot. 46 thousandths of a second margin, I should add. But we had 40 cars start 2 20-minute races. I am amazed and very pleasantly surprised at how little contact there was.
If I'm not mistaken, I feel like this is a lot cleaner than the race we had last season.
Oh, very much so. We had a big pileup down in turn 1 last season.
So props to all 41 drivers that took the green in both races. Did a fantastic job out there keeping the incidents to a very low number. And also, especially congrats to Jonathan White in the 22, 2nd and 1st to start off the season. It's a really strong run for him. We'll see how far he can take it.
All right, here's a look at your race results for the 2nd race of the evening and the final race of round number 1. And if you want to check out round number 2, make sure you check the link in the description. Actually, just read the description in general. It's got the season schedule and all other relevant information. We're going to step away for just a moment to talk to your race winners and your podium finishers. Stay with us. We'll be right back in just a moment. Welcome back live to Winding Road Magazine's SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge from Summit Point Motorsports Park. We're here now with our 15th place finisher, Jesse Stevens, also the race 1 winner of tonight. Jesse, tonight didn't finish the way you wanted. It certainly started that way with a race win in the first race of the evening, set you off on pole for race 2, but then a little bit of contact put you back in the pack, and then a penalty. Walk us through your night.
Yeah, I kind of guessed what would be going on in race 2. It'd be a lot more aggressive than race 1. Yeah, I wasn't expecting the huge dive from Ken, and then I don't know, there's just a couple things going on to where people missing braking points, stacking up mid-corner. It's just a lot of mayhem. after getting spun that initial point. But overall, no, it's still a good start to this season.
And thinking back to last season, you had some really solid runs. We had a lot of cars in this, and we were actually really surprised at how little accidents there were. Is this group of cars, or this group of drivers, going to be more competitive than last season, do you think?
I think so. Yeah, especially from the beginning of last season to the beginning of this season. We'll see how things go throughout the season, how it goes and stuff.
All right, Jesse, 15th place in race 2, but a victory for the first race. He comes home as a winner in the SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge. Jesse, thanks for talking. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Of course. Moving on now to Thomas Bressi, who came home in 3rd place. And Thomas, last season, you had some rotten luck, but tonight you made your own luck. Podium in race number 2 after a pretty strong run to 6th place in race 1. You got to be on top of the world right now.
Yeah, I guess last year I could have said if I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have had any luck at all this year. It's starting off on a different note, which is good. So, got a decent result in that first race. Had a little bit of luck there and picked up a couple spots after getting kind of shoved off the track on the first lap, but made back up for that. And then fortunately, we didn't have to qualify for the second race, because if that happened, I would have been probably back, outside the top 10 like usual, because I have a lot of problems qualifying these things. So got a good starting spot there for race 2, and then just took advantage of some other guys' misfortune, I guess.
This season, we go to a couple different racetracks. One of the ones that's coming up pretty early on the schedule is actually the Charlotte Roval. Talk to me about that racetrack. I know you're a fan of it. I know you run a lot of stock car stuff in iRacing. So tell me about that particular racetrack. Do you feel like you can win that race?
Yeah, I think that'll be a lot of fun. I've kind of noticed last year, even with all the bad luck that I had, that I tended to do a little bit better on the tracks that didn't have as much of a focus on the draft and stuff. And I feel like the Roval, obviously it's got the banked, portions and stuff. But aside from that, I feel like you can kind of get in a rhythm and do your own thing, which is nice. So yeah, definitely. I actually forgot that was even on our calendar, if I'm being honest, but looking forward to that now that you reminded me of it. So we'll just, we'll take it every round at a time, and we'll just, see what we can get here. I mean, I'm just happy I got a podium, and I survived a round without getting wrecked or something in one of the races, so I'll take it. But I do want to give a shout out, though, just to the people who sponsor the series, of course, Winding Road Magazine, Level Up Racing, Rick Motec, Night Fox Design, Mazda, and all the admins and officials and everybody that's taken part. Of course, you guys for doing the broadcast, and you especially, Kyle, because you were the one that told me about this, before last season. So I wouldn't be here if you hadn't told me. So just thanks to everybody that's involved. It's really awesome to have an opportunity to compete with guys like these that are, just so good at this. And I'm just hopeful I can keep it going, and we'll keep it rolling.
Strong start to the season for the driver number 24. Thomas, thanks for talking. We'll see you next week or next round.
Thanks, guys.
Moving on now to Michael Borden, the driver number 42. And Michael, your race tonight, and especially race number 2, was really solid. Came home in second, not a scratch on that car. I think probably one of the most improved drivers over 2019, and already starting off 2020 strong. Talk to us about your night.
Yeah, it was good. The qualifying was a little rough, and I didn't get enough draft as I would have liked, but still managed a decent enough time so I could get a good finish and bring that into the second race. In the second race, I got a little lucky with the 3 guys getting taken out there. I can't, whatever corner that is, like 5 or 6. I was just lucky enough to avoid it, and then I was just trying to maintain that for the rest of it. And for whatever reason, I just could not catch Jesse, even though I was in his draft. That guy is also, or Jonathan White, sorry. He's also improved a lot from last year. So it's going to be a tough year.
Talk to me about the format change. Obviously, the second race, 10 minutes shorter this time around. Do you think that helps you or hurts you when it comes to trying to track down a leader like Jonathan White with 10 fewer minutes?
Tonight it probably would have helped me, although Thomas was also right on my butt the whole time, so it's hard to say. Last year I definitely thought that I was better off in the 20-minute races. For whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe it was just the second race. I'd get tired after being in the sim for both races back to back like that. But I'm kind of excited the way it is. I know the first race is going to count a lot more this year without qualifying for the second one. So hopefully I can just keep up consistent like I did tonight, and it should be a good season.
Michael Borden, strong run tonight in the number 42. Michael, thanks for talking. We'll see you next round.
I ran GT
Moving on
cars,
now
so-
to, hey,
oh,
Jonathan
hello.
White, we got you in the booth now. Sorry to pull you in. In the middle
No,
of a
all good.
conversation. It's always, I feel like we're always being really rude when we pull somebody in the middle of a talk.
No,
But
it's
hey, congratulations, man. You got a race win in round 1, so you got to be thrilled. A second and a first. You're certain to be the points leader walking out of tonight. That second race you're able to drive away. Walk us through it.
Yeah, I didn't expect much coming into this. I thought maybe I could get like top 5. I qualified with a couple buddies, and I guess I was just lucky. It turned out pretty well for me.
This season, we've kind of shortened up the schedule. We've kind of made everything more compact. The nights are a little shorter. Does that make things more intense, or is it kind of the similar feeling that you had last year?
I think it's going to be more intense because you don't have that 30-minute race anymore. And when you have like 40 cars in a tight track, racing for 20 minutes, it gets kind of hectic because most guys want to, win on the first turn, and you're going to have like a bunch of wrecks going on lap 1. So personally, I'm not really a fan of the format, but I mean, it's Mazda's. You're going to have like tight racing regardless.
Jonathan, I want to wish you congratulations on your race win and your Ricmotech prize. Congratulations and a strong start to the season. We'll see you next round.
Thanks. See you guys.
Absolutely. That's going to wrap up the interviews here tonight, Finian. So round 1 already complete. That flew by tonight. Yep. And race over. We'll take one more last look at our results, but that's pretty much it for the show tonight.
Yeah, indeed. And really just kind of looking through this order of drivers. Robert Harley had a much better finish, more or less where we would expect him to finish.
Yeah.
Up in 4th, and again, was a championship favorite in last season alongside Allison Durini. Didn't get the championship there. Was expecting him to do a little bit better. I'll have to see what the pace for him going to be in round number 2.
And taking a look at the season schedule, the next round is going to be VIR. That'll be on April 29th, so a couple weeks from now. Then we head to the Charlotte Roval on May 13th, and Watkins, Glen, Road Atlanta, Laguna, Seca, Sebring, Sonoma, and Coda, bringing us all the way through August 5th. So lots of racing. Make sure if you enjoyed this event tonight that you subscribe to Winding Road Magazine if you're not already. Make sure you hit the like button to show your support. And if you're interested in learning more about us, my name's Kyle Heyer, and joined by Finian Dcunha, and you can find us at youtube.com/SimTV Broadcasting, SYMTV Broadcasting. That will get you to our channel where we stream 7 days a week, whether it's on our channel or someone else's. We work with SRO America, we work with the SCCA, a lot of professional organizations as well. So make sure you check us out and leave us some love over on our home channel. But thank you again to SPEC MX-5. Thank you to Winding Road Racing, Winding Road Magazine, Level Up Racing School, and Ricmotech for providing the race prizes and season end prizes. And we'll see you next time in a couple weeks for round 2 at VIR. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.